Okay. We are theoretically live. Give it a second to come back on here. And I'm going to have Tim confirm that all systems are go momentarily.
Looks like it's coming up on my end.
Okay. So we should be live on Rumble, YouTube, and X. And yeah, if you're listening to this now, we're on a totally different computer because, well, I guess Batman is bad luck. He's a big problem because the last time this happened was the show before Christmas, and it was you and Joshy, and we had Santa Claus coming on, and it was supposed to be a great time, and then it all fell apart. We had to do it a couple days later, and actually this has not happened since you were on then, and I thought it was all properly diagnosed to a decade-and-a-half-old HDMI cable causing problems with the graphics processor in that computer until it did it once more, like before a stream, like an hour before a stream a week ago. And I thought, oh crap. So I'm gonna have to try to figure this out. And of course I have a system backup now. I can go back to my old computer with relative ease, but it takes about a half hour to fire it up again. And I did that. And so we're back up on the old computer. Now I know I can't trust this computer. So it means that I've got a problem with the manufacturer. And again, the irony is I went to I spent time in September to go get a brand new high-performing PC to make sure that whatever variables happened with the old duct tape production, it would never be my computer that was the problem. And yet, here we are.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
And it's even skipping there because I don't know if this computer can handle the processing demands on it. We'll see. It might be a little bit of a battle to make it through the show tonight, but we're going to try. And okay. Tim says, looking good on YouTube and X, waiting on Rumble. Well, you know what? I got to go. So if the Rumble stream is a problem, then I will post this to Rumble afterward and we'll do it there. I don't even remember where we left off. Somewhere in Minneapolis. We were talking about the charges against
about Becca Good.
Becca Good.
And, right.
Yes. And I remember, let's see, we were talking about the prosecutors who had left the office under disputed terms, one of those being potentially that there's a campaign at the DOJ to go after Becca Good for her role in saying "drive baby drive" to her not wife right before she did drive baby drive and was shot for what happened for her efforts there.
Looks like you're good on Rumble too.
Cool. So that's all up and good to go. Hey, I appreciate all the super chatters, by the way. We're going to try to get, I think Tim has captured the super chatters. I have YouTube and Tippy stream. Tim, I think, has rounded up Rumble. So my apology for delaying getting to super chatters tonight. We'll do that in a little bit. Appreciate your support for the show. By the way, before we get back into it, I already gave the speech on the duct tape before. I know there's a joke about the duct tape around here.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
But it does really piss me off when I try to do. People who support this show with their hard-earned money deserve a show that proceeds without technical problems. That's why I put the money into the PC to make sure it never happens. And here it is. I just, again, want to reiterate, I don't take this lightly. That computer is retired until it is fixed by the people that sold it to me. And we'll have the show go on after that. But for the super chatters and the people who keep this operation running, I don't take this lightly. I really appreciate your support for the show. And I'm going to get this fixed. And I'm going to shake fists and yell at people tomorrow. But for now, it's time to do a show. But we left off with Becca Good. And then the other piece of the potential prosecutions or investigations in Minnesota is there is an apparent DOJ investigation happening. According to sources talking to Reuters, CBS, and other outlets, DOJ investigation into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for his apparent friendships that he has with all those school shooters, you know. And then, wait a minute, hold on. Now this is, what the hell's going on here? What the, dude, what? Hold on. Now I got more tech problems. Collapsing. Well, it's like totally, it just reset to something else. Hold on.
Duct tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
Let me see if I can do this. I think I can fix this. Yeah, okay. Something just went haywire with that, but it should be resolved. Anyway, federal investigation, DOJ investigation into Minnesota Governor Tim Walz for all his suspicious... Wait, what the... I'm just trying to set up the school shooter sounder cut. Why? Why? Hold on. Okay, if I leave this open, will it stay? Okay, I'm going to leave this open. An investigation into Tim Walz for all his suspicious friendships.
I've become friends with school shooters.
Okay, there we go. Now we're back in business. All right. And, of course, his role in potentially obstructing law enforcement in Minnesota. DOJ is also investigating Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey for the same thing, obstructing federal law enforcement. And a source tells the Washington Post that the DOJ is planning to issue subpoenas alleging that obstruction for both of these men. One source says the investigation stems from statements that Walz and Frey have made about ICE agents and statements they have made encouraging activists to harass and obstruct those ICE agents. The investigation is currently not related to the ongoing fraud in Minnesota. At least it's not related yet. This is strictly about stuff they've said about these ICE operations. Any obstruction charge would theoretically be based on documents, orders, financial transactions that link Walz and Frey to these activist networks that are disrupting ICE. So Frey was on Jake Tapper's CNN show this morning, and he's saying that he's now under federal investigation for having a different opinion.
The fact that we're saying this out loud, Jake, is bizarre. You know, I never thought in a million years that we would be invaded by our own federal government. Of course, there's different perspectives when a different party gets sworn into the White House. Of course, there are different ideologies throughout America. That's part of what makes our country great. But you don't get investigated for having a different opinion. You don't have militarized troops deployed to a city for having a different perspective or because a city happened to vote for the opposite party.
Look at this fat.
Of course, it's not about having a different opinion. It's about the act of facilitating the mob, and that's why other Democrats aren't under investigation in other states. You can say, I hate ICE all you want. Obstructing the operations is the problem, but his logic is nonsensical. He's repeatedly calling ICE invaders, as we'll hear, or an occupying force. They're occupiers. They are legally valid immigration enforcement, which is squarely federal jurisdiction. It's kind of like saying, the park rangers are occupying Yellowstone. No, that's the job that they're supposed to do under the law. And if you disagree that ICE has jurisdiction to do this enforcement, okay, fine. If they're occupiers, if they're invaders, who does the immigration enforcement, Jacob Frey and company? The answer, of course, that they prefer is nobody. So anybody doing immigration enforcement is an occupier, is an invader. And that's where we're at. But you think, what do you think, Batman?
Because we're getting the invaders out.
Well, yeah, I mean,
that's their job.
The glaring irony that the people who are removing the invaders are the invaders. Like, yeah, exactly.
Well, clearly when he's found guilty of whatever this investigation brings to bear, he should be sentenced to only eat Somali food for the rest of his life.
He'd enjoy it, man. You saw how much he was loving it. He gave the white supremacist sign when it happened.
Yeah, that's right.
But in terms of some of his commentary, now, I'm not alleging that this commentary here is criminal, but I do find it highly objectionable, highly debatable at best. Frey had a press conference this week, and he talked about residents urging him to deploy Minneapolis police officers to fight ICE in the streets.
We have residents that are asking the very limited number of police officers that we have to fight ICE agents on the street, to stand by their neighbors. We cannot be at a place right now in America where we have two governmental entities that are literally fighting one another. Why are we put in this position? We're put in this position because we have approximately 600 police officers in Minneapolis. Far fewer that are able to work at any given time. And there are approximately 3,000 ICE agents in the area. 3,000.
Okay, so he's not saying he wants the police department to fight ICE agents, but the question is why. And his answer, if I'm understanding correctly, and Batman, if you have a different interpretation, please tell me. But I understand him to be saying there, we won't be fighting ICE with Minneapolis police because we're outgunned and outmanned. There are more ICE agents here than Minneapolis police officers. That's the reason we're in this situation. And I guess implicitly that we can't fight back. Now, the correct answer, of course, is we're not going to fight back because those are federal agents engaging in proper, legally square federal law enforcement. But I'm a little bit confused by what he's saying there. Is that what you interpret him to mean? We shouldn't do this because we don't have the power to do it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the only thing keeping him from a full-on, a civil war starting act of violence is that he knows he'd lose.
Well, I guess that's some maybe derivative of the ends justify the means. The loss, the prospect of loss justifies not intervening, justifies restraint. I don't know. It's
a strange game. The only way to win is not to play.
Yeah, I remember that one. I do remember that movie. But in the same press conference, Frey, with a apparent obliviousness to the irony, asked everyone to imagine what it might be like if you had an invading force in your city disrupting your life.
Imagine if that city or that town was suddenly invaded by thousands of federal agents that do not share the values that you hold dear. Imagine if your daily routines were disrupted. The local cafe that you eat at was shut down because they're scared that their own family might get torn apart. Imagine if schools shut down and suddenly parents got to figure out what to do for daycare.
Are you stupid? Are you a stupid person?
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do without the Quality Leering Center?
I saw Nick Shirley was responding to someone on X, and they were the question that was posed was, isn't it weird how all of these very legitimate daycares, we haven't heard from even one parent who has had their daycare now disrupted? Where are the parents whose daily daycare arrangements, as Jacob Frey is talking about, where are they? The ones who had their arrangements disrupted at the Leering Center and elsewhere. Yeah, it's a mystery. And, of course, it's ridiculously ironic for this guy to be warning about the dangers of theoretical invaders in the context of refusing to remove invaders from Minneapolis and from this country. I would like to know, though, if ICE agents are the invaders, what is his prescription for the solution? Might we remove these invaders? Might we install barriers to stop their entry next time? How would you, Jacob Frey, propose removing and stopping future invasions and invaders? What would the solutions be if you had to expand upon this hypothetical a little bit more? Didn't get that in the press conference, unfortunately. But the thing that's crazy about what's going on in Minneapolis isn't just the open season on the ICE operations themselves. I know he's talking about 3,000 agents there. There is a large federal presence there. I'm not trying to deny that truth. There's a large federal presence there for a good reason and pursuant to a constitutionally valid law enforcement function. However, that place is so rabid and everybody there is so on edge about this evil ICE villain that they're all on the lookout for, that I think the demand for ICE sightings exceeds the supply. That is to say, there's a bunch of activists who are so hungry to find ICE and to be the hero who stops ICE in its tracks, or I guess gets shot in the face like Renee Good. I don't know what they're trying to achieve. Yeah, the warning has been out there. But you have several cases of these mobs targeting regular people under the suspicion or the mistaken understanding that they are ICE. And there are several examples of this in Minneapolis this week. The anti-Gestapo, the people who are out there saying, oh, it's so wrong to stop people and demand papers. They are now functionally stopping people and demanding papers, as in, hey, we think you're ICE. How about you prove to us that you aren't ICE? So there's one case that went viral this week. This is a man, I don't know who he is, but it sounds like he's part of some production team. Maybe he's with the news or something. He's a guy driving a Suburban with tinted glass. And the mob is convinced on account of his SUV with dark glass that he must be an ICE. So he is appeasing them and showing them the back of his vehicle. No, see, guys, look, I'm not in ICE. I know that you're very suspicious, but let me prove it to you. I'm not one of them.
Here you go. There, like I said, I don't have to do this. I'm happy to do this. That's all. We just got to stop this.
So he's got a lot of camera equipment. I think we can say this isn't ice.
Yeah, I'm not. I tried to tell the first lady that nobody believes me. That's all I can do is tell you. I already shot. Listen, first of all, I don't have to do any of that, but I'm kind. I respect what you are doing. Yeah, no. I really appreciate what you guys are doing. I just don't understand the job, and I don't know how to do it.
Were you here yesterday?
Yeah.
Yes, he was here yesterday. I can testify that. I didn't recognize him.
No, I appreciate your help. Thank you.
I'm not here to help you.
No,
I think the fact that you're in a vehicle like this at this
I
time
get it. But with all due respect to everybody, I can't help the way I drive.
Well, you can. You go rent something else.
Well,
I mean, if you're part of the media.
That's not how it works.
This is my business.
I know. This is not how it works. So anyhow, I hope you guys understand.
That's unacceptable.
So it might be hard to understand there, Batman, but they're telling him, once they realize he's not in fact ICE, they say it's disrespectful or irresponsible for him to drive that vehicle and say he should rent another one so as not to upset their sensibilities.
Yeah. I was definitely prepared to take this guy's side until he said, I appreciate what you're doing. I'm behind you. Thank you for what you're doing. Okay. No, you deserve this, faggot.
No,
shut up.
He should have taken the tactics of that woman at the duck hunting site. He should have just.
That will never not be funny.
And I know that whether he agrees with, maybe he does agree with the anti-ICE mob. I think first and foremost, he's probably just making a calculation about trying to avoid the violence and destruction. But yeah, why do these people act this way? Why are they comfortable approaching strangers and demanding that they drive different cars to appease them? It's because they've never been forcefully told, no, shut up, go away. And someone has to be brave enough to do that. I know it sucks if you're in that situation, but these people cannot, there's no way you're going to appease them into treating you nicely. The second you step out of line, you're still on the list and they're still coming for you.
Yeah.
There was another case at a deli in Minneapolis. There were a bunch of software developers eating lunch at this deli, and the mob became convinced that they are ICE agents and they started harassing them.
This has got to be the funniest thing I've ever seen.
I know, it's like you feel like a zoo animal. I've never.
If you're not with us, then you're against us. So clear. So clear.
Oh my god. What? We do custom apps for a whole bunch of companies around Minnesota and the country.
Why are you filming?
Because you're filming us.
Would you support?
Support what? The way you guys are acting? Fuck no.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
The way you guys are, I don't support ICE either.
Bootlicker either way. Then why do you care? Then you should say.
I'm just trying to enjoy my lunch.
If you're not with us, then you're against us.
Exactly.
Okay. So the guy who gave this video to Alpha News, his name's Lee. And he said his group had been identified as ICE and their location was shared across these anti-ICE networks of activists. And so very quickly, it was something like 15 minutes, they go to this deli and a flash mob arrives because whoever organizes this messaging determined their ICE, sends out a message, all the robots receive their programming, and they arrive within 15 minutes to blow their whistles and harass people. That's how quickly these people are engaged and how easily they're deployed. And that statement, if you're not with us, you're against us. Even when they realize they're not ICE. Well, if you're not with us, you're against us. If you're not with us in lockstep, every bullshit move we make, whatever your opinion on immigration is, our harassment of the wrong people, you still have to endorse because if you're not with us, you're against us. Just like the SUV guy. And I don't know, Lee, to his credit here, was not appeasing them. He was pushing back.
Yeah, this was much better.
But they're telling you, like, if you don't endorse every single thing that we do and say, then you are our enemy. To your point, Batman, if you're going to call yourself my enemy, well, then I'm going to deal with you like my enemy. And we'll see how that works out. You have to. You have to be forceful with these people, at least with your words. You cannot grant them an inch because they will keep abusing you.
Well, there will come a point where words won't be enough. We're going to see another Rittenhouse situation soon.
I'm surprised. Now, we've seen several ICE-involved shootings, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen in just like a mistaken identity civilian type thing. Like Kyle Rittenhouse wasn't mistaken identity, but something like that, where someone like Kyle might be believed to be ICE. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's coming.
Well, unless they stop this with some sort of Insurrection Act deployment, which I'll get to in a moment. But yeah, unless overwhelming force is deployed, I don't see this heading the right direction. Yeah. There's another video. I thought this was Minneapolis. It's actually Columbus, Ohio, but it's recent and it's still to the point. It's just like random people walking on the street. Hey, that's like a generic white male. I assume he's probably ICE. Let's yell at him to clarify.
Where you going? Huh? Are you ICE?
No.
Do you like ICE? Say f*** ICE! Say it! Say it, bitch! You're a bitch! Your mom's a bitch! Say it! F*** you! F*** you, Nazi! F*** you, Nazi! F*** you, Nazi!
This one, I'm thinking, is maybe a bit. I have a hard time believing that one's even real, but supposedly it is.
The voice seems like something out of a comedy flick.
Like it's
like if this is legit, then like Jesus, give me something for the cringe and let me die.
So I don't know. That one might be just a guy doing a bit, but this one in Minneapolis is apparently legitimate. This is the mob chasing down and beating up a guy. They're calling him a Nazi. They think he's a Nazi until cooler heads in the group prevail, and they realize, I guess, he's one of them. This is friendly fire.
Police! Let him up! Okay. Okay, boy, look. Get up. Let him go. Get your ass up. You good? You're not a Nazi? Okay. That's what they asked. That's all they asked. That's all they asked. He's one of us. Okay. He's one of us. Okay, good. I'm one of them. You all right, dude? You all right? Come on. Breathe. He's one of us. How do we know? How we know? I was with him earlier. Why you get ran out earlier? I don't know. He's one of us.
Okay.
Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, if you're beating random people up, we're trying to, based on a perceived friend-enemy distinction, you're not the good guy. If your determination about whether it's justified to beat up random people on the street is whether he's quote-unquote one of us or not, as we heard in the prior segment at the deli, you're also not the good guy, yet they are completely convinced otherwise. But
what baffles me, and what baffles me about a lot of the internet, is that they managed this massive L and posted it anyway. Was this being live streamed? Could they not take it down?
It might have been part of a stream. I'm not sure the exact origin on that one. Yeah. But they've posted several cell phones before. It wouldn't be the first time. Yeah.
I know. It just, it doesn't make any, I have difficulty wrapping my head around it because it's like, I mean, this makes you look not only evil, but incompetent.
Well, they are both. Yeah. I mean, that's usually the question. Are they stupid or are they evil? And it's both. They're both. It's not mutually exclusive.
So why broadcast that? I mean, I would be, if I beat up one of my own friends because I was unable to determine that I was A, doing the wrong thing, and B, not smart enough to realize that he was my friend, I wouldn't want anybody to know about this. I would take that to my grave.
I assume maybe it's one of these independent reporters live streaming it. I don't know if the guys doing the beating actually were intending on that getting out that way. I don't know. I don't know the exact origin, but we could look into it. But yeah, whether it's intentional or not, it's kind of like how body cams were the greatest cell phone in Black Lives. Well, I mean, there's a lot of Black Lives Matter cell phones, but really body cams are probably it. Nothing has discredited Black Lives Matter more than body cams. And this is kind of the same thing where you think that recording all, Tim Walz gave that speech and said, record everything they do. We want all this evidence for prosecution. I'm not saying that ICE or federal agents are immune from misconduct. I certainly would prefer that they wear body cams. They don't. But how much agitator, protester, rioter misconduct do you think you're going to capture with that camera? Probably a lot more. And it looks like they have. But
well, like you said, the body cams were something that they argued for when they didn't have them in such numbers. And now that it's been made standard practice across a lot of cities in America, they realize it's just proving the point they're trying to disprove.
Yeah.
So I noticed that there isn't really much call for ICE agents to wear body cameras anymore because presumably we would have had even better footage of Renee Good's assault smirk. That
yeah. How long until Black Lives Matter is arguing for the de-body camification
They
of
already
the country? Has that happened?
They already are.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, the question is what happens next? Something has to happen. As we're talking about here, the trajectory is not improving. It is not as though things are calming. They appear to be worsening in pretty much every way, getting more chaotic all the time. Of course, you have the Renee Good shooting. Was it the day after? There was the shovel attack on an ICE agent. There was a shooting there. You got mobs stealing federal law enforcement property, including a rifle this week out of the back of a car. Yep. And now, as reported by Bill Malugin over the weekend, you've got a hotel, the Doubletree in St. Paul, apparently sending out letters to ICE agents and other federal personnel there that they're canceling their stays, not for political reasons per se, like we don't like ICE, so you're not staying here. They're saying they're not confident that they can conduct business safely. So they're just closing the hotel. And this is because Minnesota political leaders don't want to maintain order. We've seen the mobs outside these hotels routinely. And there have been apparent episodes of hotel refusal to serve ICE agents. But this is just, we don't know that we can actually conduct business safely here. And based on what I've seen, I kind of believe them. That seems pretty credible to me. So what do you do when you can't even conduct business in these places safely? You have to restore order. Trump has reportedly been considering invoking the Insurrection Act, sitting on that for days to weeks now. This would deploy military forces to maintain peace. And there were reports that Trump was backing off that consideration. It's now reported over the weekend that the Defense Department has ordered the Army's 11th Airborne Division based in Alaska, capable for cold weather operations, which you might face in Minneapolis. They're on prepare to deploy orders right now, 1,500 of them, two battalions of the 11th Airborne. Now, the reporting says that it's not an immediate deployment. They're not expecting to send them to Minneapolis right now, but if things get any worse, they are prepared to go. So the source speaking with the Washington Post here calls it prudent planning rather than an imminent plan for deployment. And yeah, am I thrilled about federal law enforcement really in general? No, I think that the states retain pretty much all police power. The federal government has a very limited role in domestic policing. However,
this is exactly what that limited role should be.
Correct. And immigration enforcement is the federal government's jurisdiction. It has to be. It is legally, but it has to be in practical terms. So they must be there to do that valid federal law enforcement. If the federal government can't protect us from foreign invaders, it has little reason to exist. If it can't protect itself while it is doing the business of that legitimate law enforcement to protect us from foreign invaders, it has little reason to exist. So I'm not thrilled with the idea of militarized federal policing. However, when you have deranged agitators and obstructors preventing valid law enforcement from happening to the degree that hotels can't operate in the city, that is mob rule. That is not, for all the worry of tyranny under a overly empowered federal government, there is tyranny in Minneapolis and St. Paul right now. It is the mob enacting its will wherever it goes, and that mob must be stopped for law and order to be restored. So,
but that is a Democrat's version of democracy.
Yeah.
It is mob rule, right? They hate the Electoral College. They hate anything that basically doesn't allow, this unfettered, pure democracy, or what they probably think is unfettered, pure democracy to exist, or
Yeah, well, I guess this is the one. The democracy they like is a mob screaming in your face and trying to tell you have to drive a different car and ending your lunch and all that sort of stuff. That's the preferred outcome of proper democratic society. Apparently,
it is what they think the First Amendment is.
It's nothing but free speech in Minneapolis and St. Paul. God bless them. All right,
free speech.
Before I get to the guest segment with David Wood, we're going to Minneapolis. We're going to war with Greenland now too, or maybe Denmark, for whom Greenland is an autonomous territory, has requested help deploying NATO military personnel to the island, and NATO has responded enthusiastically. In fact, Germany sent 13 military personnel and France sent 15.
Ooh, don't do it. Please don't do it.
How will we take Greenland now? But Trump continues to press for U.S. ownership of Greenland, perhaps through a purchase, though Denmark has expressed no interest in selling, perhaps through military force, though that seems unlikely. But Trump considers Greenland a place of strategic importance globally. Greenland also has many useful minerals for mining. So Trump is now using Greenland to escalate the trade war with Europe. Because of opposition to the U.S. taking over Greenland, Trump said on Truth Social yesterday that he is imposing a 10%, another wall of text, though. Please, can somebody help Trump put paragraph breaks in his posts, for the love of God? I'm a fan of the phrasing. It's funny, but I can't read walls of text like this anymore. Anyway, Trump says he's imposing a 10% tariff on Denmark and 7 other European countries, including Germany, France, and the UK, because of their opposition to the U.S. taking control of Greenland. Trump said we've subsidized Denmark and other European countries for many years. It's time for them to give back. He says China and Russia now want Greenland, and if they decide tomorrow to take it, Denmark won't be able to do anything about it. Trump says the 10% tariff will start on February 1st. It will increase to a 25% tariff on June 1st, unless these countries make a deal for the complete and total purchase of Greenland. And for now, these European countries are digging in. Representatives from 27 EU countries are meeting for crisis talks today in Cyprus. They are also considering boycotting the upcoming Soccer World Cup in the U.S. Imagine if they did that, Batman. What a disaster. What a catastrophe. But
that Fetterman sounder is needed again.
Oh, you here, wait, what did I put?
Ooh, don't do it. Please, don't do it.
Not the soccer games. Okay. But perhaps most consequentially, they are talking about delaying or obstructing or stopping any movement on the developing EU-US trade deal. Now, overall, I don't really get the Greenland thing, although there is an explanation for it that I hadn't considered that maybe makes sense. So you tell me if you agree, Batman. But as far as like our ability to get our military there for strategic reasons, there's already an agreement for us to do that. 1951 agreement with Denmark to do exactly that. We can build military bases there if we want to. We also can mine there if we want to develop infrastructure in Greenland. We could do that. We could negotiate that. If Russia or China tried to take Greenland, I don't think NATO would allow it, and I think NATO would probably stop them. I'm no fan of NATO, but I have a hard time believing China and Russia would just walk in there and take it without some serious resistance. So I assume that all of this is to build leverage for these ongoing trade negotiations. Do we end up with control of Greenland? Maybe not, but do we get something more out of these developing trade deals? Hopefully. We'll see how much patience people have for the trade deals politically. Of course, the tariff leverage really depends on the Supreme Court, too, which may rule soon that Trump has actually acted beyond his legal authority to impose these tariffs. If they do that, the Trump administration is saying they have a backup plan to impose 10% tariffs, regardless, under a different legal authority. So we'll see how that plays out. But even though I didn't personally understand all the Greenland talk or why this is apparently important, I did see commentary from Steve Bannon, of course, former Trump advisor. And Steve Bannon, talking to the Daily Mail, is saying this is not the real motive here is actually about Canada and China potentially maybe taking Greenland themselves in a way different from what Trump was talking about, or expanding their influence in the Arctic through Canada is the idea. So Canada can't defend its Arctic shore from China. And so we have to get control of Greenland. We have to exert our influence in Greenland, because if Canada becomes increasingly China-fied, and there's a lot of ongoing close ties or developing close ties between Canada and China, we need Greenland.
The Carney's already in their pocket.
Yeah, so we need Greenland to make sure that China doesn't effectively take over Canada. I misspoke earlier. I didn't mean China takes over Greenland. I mean, we take Greenland to defend from the Chinese takeover of Canada. Do you buy that? Or what do you think about Greenland generally?
Yeah, that does seem like a feasible reason for it. I'm not entirely sure. I would need to be better read up on this particular topic, but generally, I mean, I think that right now Canada, as it stands, represents a serious national security threat because of how much Mark Carney's head bobs up and down in Xi Jinping's lap.
I was thinking about making a tiny dick joke there, but it's not coming to me as I'm opening a Discord here to prepare for Super Chat. So I'm admittedly a little bit distracted, but yes, Canadian Prime Minister blows the Chinese president. Gotcha.
That was the implication. Yeah.
All right. Anything else you want to say about Greenland or China or Canada?
No, I don't think so. I actually was unaware of the deals that were made, that we could build military bases and mine there already.
I don't know if there's existing mining contracts. I should clarify. We certainly could do that, I think, if we wanted to. It's not as though the EU or Denmark would, well, maybe they would. Maybe they hate Trump that much. Maybe I'm being a little too optimistic. But I think if there was a serious U.S. company that wanted to get mining rights to operate in Greenland, I doubt that there would be a whole bunch of obstruction put on that. Maybe there would. Maybe they'd say it's environmental or, I don't know. But it seems like if there was money to be made in Greenland, they might be open to talking about that.
Yeah, well, again, I was unaware of any of those because I was under the impression that the whole Greenland thing was basically a stop Russia strategy. Denying them access via that particular sea route. But I don't know.
Could be. There's something about Greenland that I just don't get because I don't necessarily understand why Trump is so insistent on it, but I also find it a little bit mysterious in the current context of problems. Like, why is this such a major problem that we need to confront? But maybe it fits into the tariff strategy. Maybe it does fit into stopping China or Russia. And I'm less worried about stopping Russia. I just don't. Do I think that China wants to completely mess up North America? Yeah, a whole bunch of different ways. Like their crazy baby factories in Southern California and all that nonsense. Yeah. Russia, I'm not convinced that Vladimir Putin is trying to expand into the Western Hemisphere in that way. But maybe I don't understand. What would I know? I'm just an agent of Putin's, bought off. Clearly.
Yeah, that's right.
So
no, I think it would be a mistake to consider Putin a friend, to be sure. But this is not a good guy. He is an evil man. But they don't seem like they're as much of a problem on the world stage right now as China is. Right? I don't really care much about the Ukraine conflict. There's arguments to be made on both sides of that particular little bitch fight out there. But we have lots of reasons to think China is trying to be, a sneaky, subversive power.
Oh, they are. They're going to take over our country with their automatic citizens and all their votes and all this nonsense. Anyway, let's get into some super chat and we'll get to the guest segment. Captain Norway sending a few dollars before it's taxed by the temper tantrum tariffer in chief. I didn't expect the boogaloo to be between Danes, Scandos, and the Yankees, but here we are. I hereby activate Agent Commentator 6 on behalf of the Danish Crown. Stand by. I guess, yeah, do I have to stay loyal to the Danish Crown?
I didn't even put that together.
I'm going to be
Danish
American
blood, don't you?
Oh, yeah. I'm 50% Danish, and the rest is pretty much all northern Germany, so basically Danish.
So you and I should actually be quite a bit more read up on this whole Greenland thing. We should understand it better because it involves the Danes and the Chinese.
I guess. I don't know. Who do I pick in this conflict? Do I stay America first, or am I a secret Danish agent? I guess we'll have to find out. Kevin Volk, regarding Wednesday's call, I do like other kinds of beer, like Saisons. I'm always confused about how to pronounce that. Is it Saison? Do you know that type of beer? Saison?
No, I'm not familiar.
Okay, Saison, and sours. But IPA will always be my go-to. Not going to lie, Robert triggered me. It's not a phase. It's who I am, Dad. I mean, Robert, well, first of all, if you like IPAs...
Fuck off! Go away!
That was the context of Wednesday's conversation. Are you and I don't know if you're a beer drinker at all. Have we talked about this?
Yeah, I mean, I go on and off. Sometimes I do for a while, and then I'll stop for 3 years or whatever. IPAs aren't really my favorite. They're not bad though.
Well, still.
Fuck off! Go away!
If you're open to IPAs, I don't even want to hear it. All right, Tortuga. Thank you, Kevin. And that's fine. I don't like beer snobs, so I'm not going to beer snob you. It's all, whatever you want to drink is fine. I'm not going to please. Robert liked ciders, though. Were you mad that Robert liked ciders, or were you mad about the IPA thing? I don't know. Ciders are also good.
Ciders are good.
Tortuga, did you hear about the trucker who rear-ended a man in San Francisco? By the time they figured out who he was Pradeep Deekshit. Pradeep Deekshit. See, this one, I don't even, is that, I gather you're probably joking, Tortuga, or is that real? Like, for all I know, a guy named Pradeep
I think it's a joke.
It probably did crash into people in San Francisco. I could believe that one. Jonathan, thank you, Tortuga. Jonathan Prezios, I've been in and out the past couple shows. Have you covered the Candace nonsense? It's becoming the most funniest shit ever. Now that Charlie Kirk is a time traveler, I'm trying to troll to Candace for fun. No, I've mostly sat that out, not because I don't necessarily have opinions. I don't really like to get involved in the like content creator drama. So I've not paid a ton of attention to what Candace says. If there are specific opinions about what Candace says, maybe I'll talk about them if people want to talk about them. But I'm not a Candace Owens follower. I'm not watching her show. I know that there's a lot of people going after her for the things that she says and her questions that she's asking. So I just don't. I'd be lying if I told you I had intelligent commentary to offer. I've heard what people say she says, and it sounds ridiculous to me, but I haven't listened to I've spent zero time listening to Candace herself, so I don't want to jump on the hate train without doing the due diligence. Based on what I've heard, it's yeah, I mean, like you're saying, Jonathan, it sounds like there's some questionable things said, but I haven't listened to it, so I'm not going to jump on the hate train until I listen to it, but I also have basically no interest in listening to it, so I'm not gonna.
Look, Candace is one of those people who, like, I followed her pretty regularly once upon a time, and then I sort of just watched her kind of go off the deep end.
Have you followed the stuff lately?
Yeah, I haven't been watching her specifically as much, but I've been kind of listening again, like you said, to what other people say about it. And then Crowder put on a clip of her actually saying this stuff, and it's kind of unhinged.
Well, I will say, I know that just asking questions has become kind of a meme, and I get it. I get why people ridicule that. I also do think it's important to be able to talk about anything and, quote unquote, just ask questions about anything and everything. The question is, the question to ask when you're just asking questions, what are the motives here? Is this a person who is genuinely interested in finding the truth? And I'm not implying that Candace isn't without listening to it myself. But there is, to the point of the critics, whether Candace does this or not, there is a such thing as, quote unquote, just asking questions for the point of attracting attention rather than actually getting at the truth. If you're just asking questions in pursuit of the truth, I'm all in favor of it. If you're just asking questions to try to be provocative in a way to get a bunch of eyes on you, and you never actually arrive at the truth, or apparently have interest in discovering it, I have questions to ask about that. Again, these are theoretical things. These are not to be interpreted as accusations against Candace. I wouldn't do that without listening to exactly what she said. It's just I'm trying to understand the conflict here, and there's a reason I choose not really to involve I hate the internet fights in that way. If you want to listen to Candace, great. If you don't. But nobody really needs me to add to what Candace is saying or to fight against Candace. If that's a show that attracts attention, great, listen to it. If not, that's fine too. Matt's news.
It's more about the entertainment value, I think. Just because, I mean, now she's talking about, again, like Charlie Kirk is actually a time traveler that they knew was super special because of their use of ancient Sumerian technology.
I'm having a hard time. I'm not accusing Jonathan of being inaccurate or lying or something, but did she say that? Is that a quote?
She did, yeah.
He is a time traveler? Okay, that's news to me.
It's very funny.
Matt's new streaming computer. My new streaming computer, the one sitting right there, powered off. I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. Oh, man. So that's what he took two to the back. My computer has 2 wounds in the back of it. All right. Double tapped.
Clearly a suicide.
Newbie of Death Review. Rumble Rant's not working. What about the dude cowering in the window? Fed. I don't know what's going on with Rumble. Sorry about that. But who was the guy cowering in the window? A Fed? Which video was this? Might have been the one at the deli. Sorry, newbie. I just don't know which guy you're talking about. But if you want to email me, if you have suspicions, I'd be happy to take a closer look. Okay, Tim says, you see the other duck clip this week. A California woman screamed, "Get away from her, get off of her," at a male duck attacking a female duck, if you know what he means. She then got in the pond to try to separate them. She thought she got it when she said "fucking ducks." So she intervened in a duck rape? I did not see that one. I'll have to check that out.
That was a mental image I didn't want.
Tim also says, stream stopped suddenly, so I jumped into Discord to let you know that both YouTube and Rumble seem to have stopped streaming. Here I am thinking the lack of response was rude until you said computer crashed. Now I feel like a fucking retard. Yeah, I mean, if I just disappear in the middle of a stream, it's probably a good reason for it. But also says there's federal law enforcement, you retard Frey. It's not an invasion if they're being deployed anywhere in the nation. My suggested YouTube videos include Shit Town by the band Live. Appropriate since you're discussing Minneapolis. I don't know that music, but yeah, that's the question I wish someone would ask. Okay, if they're an invading force on immigration and therefore I guess an illegitimate immigration force, which is why they're invaders, who is the legitimate or proper immigration force? Who would those people be? And his answer is nobody. I wish he would just come out and say that.
Well, he has.
Has he said we don't want any immigration enforcement at all?
Yeah, with his actions.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, see, I should have paid more attention. All right, Tortuga says, I think the tarded simulation we are living in is running on Matt's other computer. That explains this distorted reality we have. Tortuga, I feel so bad because, as I mentioned, Tortuga helped me diagnose what I thought was the problem and put in some effort and really helped me out. So, Tortuga, I'm not going to waste any more of your time on it, but I don't know what I'm going to do. I think I'm just going to have to go buy a new PC in the morning and force whoever is going to fix this or take it to a shop or something. I bought it at Best Buy. It's a pre-build, and they only give you a 30-day return window. It does have a manufacturer's warranty, but of course, if you want a manufacturer claim, you got to send it into them. They're going to send you a new one or fix it or whatever. That's going to take weeks, maybe a month. So I got to have a computer in the meantime. And even when I get this one back, do I fully trust it? I got to have something else sitting behind it. And the computer I'm running on right now is mostly fine, but it's been running the show since 2020. And it's a little dated in some of its parts. It struggles at times. And it works perfectly fine for a spot backup like this, but I can't just run the show on it for an extended period of time. So kind of in a spot, but I will figure it out and we'll go from there. Over on Rumble, Tim was able to recover one from Yakko. Has Denmark tried to negotiate a joint mining and defense deal regarding Greenland? It's a strategic location to defend the Arctic, and it's reported rare earth minerals is something the U.S. needs to secure. Yeah, well, this is I'm sort of curious why. On the other side of what I was saying, like, yeah, we could probably negotiate these things with Denmark right now. Maybe not. Maybe Denmark is opposed to these things, but I don't understand why. Why? First of all, they do have an agreement for defense structures, defense infrastructure for the U.S., so they'd have to honor that. But as far as the mining, if they stand to benefit financially from the development, you'd think they'd be in, but maybe they just hate Trump so much they're not. Maybe it's as simple as that.
I think it is that. I mean, every Euro trash leader at this point has made it incredibly clear that they hate everything that he stands for. In part because he doesn't he doesn't cooperate with them in the way that previous leaders have.
Yeah, and to the extent these rare earths are really important for not only all the stuff we make and buy, but our national defense and all that, it would be nice to have like a reliable Western Hemisphere source of those things. I don't know how realistic it is to get them in Greenland or not, but yeah, you'd prefer to have those on this side of the globe and under your control if it's possible. So,
well, you can get a lot of that stuff in Canada as well, if I recall correctly. I think.
Well,
but,
they're too busy blowing G, so they won't
right.
be turning that over anytime soon. Newbie of Death review. If you read this,
you are gay. LMAO.
As always. Okay, that's all the chats I have for now.
I'll have to just circle back with you.
We'll come back to chats at the end of the show. Appreciate you, super chatters. But I want to get to my guest segment because my guest tonight is a great one. David Wood is known for his content in Christian apologetics, but he's a man with an unusual path to Christian faith. He tried to kill his dad, and then in jail he started arguing with another guy about the Bible. He couldn't beat the guy, so eventually he joined him. We pre-recorded this segment earlier this week. It's about 33 minutes. See you on the other side.
The universe exploded out of nowhere for no reason, and that life formed on its own, and that consciousness was a natural product of particle interactions in our brains, and that moral values were nothing but societal indoctrination, and that Jesus' followers made up a story about him rising from the dead because they wanted his message to spread. I believed all of this without anything remotely resembling a careful investigation of the evidence, which means I believed a lot of what I'd been told. But I'm pointing a finger at the Christian. Why? Because it's much easier to make fun of someone else than to do the difficult work of putting together a coherent, well-grounded belief set.
Welcome back. My guest tonight is David Wood. You can find him on his YouTube channel, Apologetics Roadshow, linked in the description. David, thanks for making some time.
No problem.
We have a bit of a shared audience. You have some fans in my audience, and one of them emailed me a little while ago and said, you got to talk to this guy. He's very interesting. He's a psychopath, but he's a Christian psychopath. And as someone who has found my own somewhat strange path to faith in the last year and change, I thought, sure, I want to hear how psychopathy leads to Christianity. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. But so I want to back up and start with your story from the start, because when I talk about your background being sort of a crazy one, I mean, yeah, this is something that involves attempted murder and the path to Christian faith. How did it all start?
Well, if you want to go back to the beginning, I always tell kind of the same story because that's where that's the first time I recognized something different. But it was I was 5 or 6 years old, and I'd had a dog as long as I remember. This little dog named Goliath, and I was over at a friend's house with my mom at some point, and she got a phone call. And she's on the phone and she turns to me and her eyes well up with tears. And she tells me that my dog had been run over by a bus. And I looked at her and I thought, well, so what? It's just a dog. And I'm looking at her and she starts crying and she didn't even like my dog. And so I'm sitting there wondering, what's wrong with my mom? Because we kind of lived in the middle of nowhere. So we weren't around a lot of people normally. But I thought there was something wrong with my mom that she's crying over a dog because did she not know that dogs die or something like that? So I thought there was something weird about my mom. And then a couple years later, we were living somewhere else. And we had this, we were living in a house with a bunch of other people. And the kids had a shared dog. And the dog got hit by a car and broke its leg. And then it was in a cast for a while. And then it did the same. It ran into traffic again, and this time it got killed. And the kids there, they were all older than me, but they were like tough kids. They had they they had their own like drug supply. They were growing their own marijuana plants and stuff like that. And so these were like the tough kids in the area, and they're all with their heads down crying. And then it kind of hit me then. It's like, whoa, this is everybody. Everyone's like this. What is wrong with them? But that was the point where I tried to start mimicking what other people were doing. And, you know, I'm like 7 years old, and I'm looking at them, and I thought it was like the angle of their heads. So I like leaned my head forward at the same angle as the other kids.
Oh, like the actual, not the structure of their skull, but the way they hold their head is what you're saying.
They're all leaning forward at like the same angle at the table. So I just lowered my head to the same angle. I thought that was it. And then one of the kids, his name was Todd, all of a sudden he goes, "Dave don't even care." And he points at me, and they all look at me. And I was thinking, well, yeah, I don't care, but okay. So it's got to be more than the head tilt, right? So then you start like figuring out how to fit in and so on over time. And so you're just always like reading other people's expressions and so on, and learning to fit in with that. But like over time, since you're always like reading people and paying attention, you kind of learn what makes people tick, and after a while you can start like using that to your advantage. But anyway, so I didn't know that was a thing, that there's like a psychological disorder which causes this. At that point, it wouldn't have been labeled antisocial personality disorder. That's what I was eventually diagnosed with. If you're young, they'll diagnose you with conduct disorder or something like that. It's not until you're an adult that they'll label you with antisocial personality disorder. But yeah, you don't know that there's actually a disorder. So you just know that you're different. And so over time, I just conclude I'm superior to everyone else because they all have these stupid emotional reactions that don't make any sense, and I don't. So I'm superior to everyone else. But I was eventually diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, but I also had something else, and I tried not to share anything about this when they were evaluating me. But I also had delusional thoughts like my entire life, which that's whatever that is, that's something else. Because
what sort of delusions? Like, what were you thinking?
Well, the first time I remember, and I may have had them before, but I just don't remember. But I was about, 8 years old, and I was visiting my grandfather, and there was a lake close to his house that I could actually walk to. So I was sitting beside the lake, and I was just sitting there watching these ants march in a line, and all of a sudden it just became perfectly clear to me that ants actually control the world, and they had tricked us human beings into thinking that we controlled the world. And it's not based on any sort of evidence or anything. It's just like it suddenly becomes clear to you, and you're the only one who sees it, and you're the only one who understands it. And but that wouldn't last long. That would last hour or something like that, and it would go away. But as I got older, it would switch. I would start thinking that other animals control the world, cats. It was whenever an animal would look at me like in the eyes, like a person would, and would just stare at me in my eyes, I would think it was like trying to communicate with me, and that it was like bragging to me that it's actually in control and so on. So, I'd be sitting there talking to animals like, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade and stuff, going, you're not fooling me. I'm on to you, buddy. I'm on to you.
No sympathy for the animals when they die, but respect for them as rulers of the universe. It sounds like.
Yeah. So those are two different things going on, but they sort of combined in a weird way. So I was like, breaking into places when I was young and so on, but like the older I got, it was like whatever rules anyone tried to impose on me, if there's some rule I'm supposed to follow, eventually I would break the rule. And when I did, it felt like I had like unpolluted myself. Like you had polluted me by putting this rule that I'm supposed to follow into my head. And by doing the opposite, I was like cleansing myself of this. But there are lots of rules and stuff. So you keep going through them. Kind of one by one throughout your life and so on, and just breaking every rule they tell you have to follow and so on. And every single time it was like this rush of freedom that I had cleansed myself of this nonsense and so on. So I was 18 and I thought of like, what do I do to like finally just be completely clear of everything they've tried to impose on these inferior beings have ever tried to impose on me. And so I attacked my dad with a hammer and I hit him in the head 7 or 8 times with a hammer and left him for dead. I didn't know that someone could survive like one. I was about 235 pounds, 6'3", and so on as an 18-year-old, but attacked my dad with a hammer, and that this was going to be like the final stage because I couldn't think of anything worse, more extreme to do than like killing my own dad.
And was it a rebellion against the rules, quote unquote, or was your dad a particular figure for these rules, or am I overthinking it? What was the reason for targeting your dad in this way? Was there a reason?
Not like nothing like he did in particular, or something like that. No, it was just, I was just thinking, I started trying to figure out bomb building and so on. Back then you could go into a little bookstore and you get like the anarchist cookbook and get something on pyrotechnics and things like that. I got a book on disguises so that I could disguise myself and so on. So it was just like preparing for various things and so on. But I'm just sitting there thinking like, what if I blow people up? I mean, other people blow people up. What is that? And I don't know if it's people I don't know. What is that? People, guys who drop bombs on cities or something like that do that. So what is that? What's that going to do exactly? And
so there's like a personal element made it seem even worse, I guess. I mean, it's terrible no matter how you look at it, but with the personal element added a degree of rule breaking to you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it was like the final stage. I somehow became convinced that if I go and murder my own dad, then there's nothing else beyond that. I will be completely like rule free. And then I will be what I like really am. And that'll be the real me, not me with all these nonsensical rules that inferior beings had put into my head all these years. So.
Okay, so you go to prison for that crime, obviously. And when you're in prison, you meet a guy named Randy who's reading his Bible all the time. And I don't know, were you an outright atheist when you went in? Were you, say, anti-God, or were you just kind of agnostic on these questions?
Oh no, I was like hardcore atheist. Like when I was young, it was never an issue. I would usually live with my mom, occasionally live with my dad, occasionally live with other relatives. I lived with my grandmother for a while. I lived with my uncle for a while. I lived with some Italian dudes in Florida, down in Florida for a little while. There was no church. There was no talking about God and so on. The only time anyone would talk about it is if I went and visited my grandmother, or when I lived with my grandmother, and then I would have to go to church. But so it wasn't an issue when I was young. I was probably like 12 or so when I realized I didn't believe in any of this stuff. And then I was like 13 or 14 when I was more of a mocker. And I remember, I think I was 14 and it was the first day of class, and they would call out your name and they would ask if you have a nickname. And I started saying God whenever they would say, "What's your nickname?" And I would say God. And so, yeah, I became like a mocker. And then probably 9th or 10th grade or something like that, I was more like aggressive in telling Christians and so on that they're stupid for believing.
Was the nickname honored? Did they call you God, or was that rejected?
Well, no, like one teacher at the next class, he didn't say anything, but like the next class, he called me out and he says, "Guy."
Okay.
Guy?
Yeah.
Guy? Where's Guy? David Wood, Guy? And I go, no, I said God. And he goes, oh. And he goes, oh, I'm not calling any kid God. And so, yeah, there's that. But yeah, by the time I was late teens, I was total mocker. And so then I end up this was in jail. This wasn't prison. So this was in jail, and ended up in a dorm. And yeah, there's this guy named Randy, and see, he's sitting up on his bunk and he's reading the Bible every day. That's all he does, sit up on his bunk reading the Bible. And one day I just walked up to him and I said, "Hey, you know why you're reading the Bible? Because you're born in the United States. If you've been born anywhere else, you believe in something else. If you've been born in China, you'd be a Buddhist. If you've been born in India, you'd be a Hindu. If you've been born in Saudi Arabia, you'd be a Muslim, because people like you believe whatever you're taught to believe." And which is funny because I didn't believe in God and so on, but as far as like where the universe came from and how life formed and so on, it was all like stuff I'd been told by my teachers in class and so on. I didn't investigate it. So I believed what I was told on all of those issues. But Randy was like the first Christian that I was ever around who would like put up a fight. So most Christians along the way, if I started trying to argue with them about something, they might say something. They might say something in response real quick, but as soon as I start arguing, they go, no, this isn't something you argue about. We don't argue about this stuff. Whereas Randy, he was kind of ready to go. And as we're having discussions, he turned out to be a really interesting fellow. So he'd been a criminal and had converted to Christianity, and then he joined the Navy, and he was in the Navy, and he just decided, you know what, I'm going to go and I'm going to confess to everything I ever did. So he walked into a police station and confessed to 21 felonies. And then I ended up in jail with this guy, and we start arguing about Christianity. And he was the first guy who would just put up a fight. And it was interesting to me because here I thought I was like the smartest, most advanced human being who'd ever lived. And I started losing these arguments to this guy because I really didn't know what I was talking about on a lot of things. And he had this, it wasn't even that he was terribly knowledgeable. He would just kind of call me on things that I was saying where I didn't know what I was talking about. I would say like, oh, come on, all scientists agree. And he would just go, all scientists agree with that? Really? How do you know what all scientists believe? Where did you study that? And it was like, I didn't, I just made it up. Right. But he was somehow, he somehow had a detector for when I was just making things up, and he'd call me on it and so on. So this got really annoying. Like some dope who was stupid enough to turn himself in for a bunch of felonies was out arguing me on these topics. So we just kept going back and forth, and I kept losing and trying to figure this out. And eventually we got into this awesome, like possibly the world's first ever fasting battle. But he fasted 7 days on nothing but water. I was like, oh, well, I will beat him at this. So the first time I ever fasted my entire life, I went 10 days straight on nothing but water just to beat this Christian. And then we'd kind of go back and forth. He'd fast for a while, and I would always fast like 2 or 3 days more than him. He wasn't trying to battle me. He's just doing it. I just had to beat this guy at something. So I kept doing that. Eventually, he went 40 days on nothing but water. So he'd said that Jesus had done it and that he was going 40 days on nothing but water. It was actually, he went 32 days on nothing but water, and then he started drinking like Kool-Aid and stuff to prepare his body for food again, because it'll actually mess you up if you start eating again.
Yeah. I heard in your testimonial video that it sounds like the whoever the guards are at this facility intervened with you, right? Mm-hmm. They stopped you. They didn't stop. They just let Randy go. They stopped him too.
Yeah, they didn't know about him. I actually passed out in front of them. So someone, I needed some form, and every once in a while they'd come out and ask who needs forms for various things. I don't remember which form it was, but the guard shows up at the door and says, who needs any forms? And I go up there, and next thing I wake up and like people are looking down at me. Are you okay? Are you okay? And a guy there named Jeff, he told me, he said, all of a sudden you walk up, and he said, then you just stop. And he said, then you look like a snake standing on its tail. And then you just went straight to the ground. So they knew my mental health history because I'd been in a couple mental hospitals by this point. So they concluded that I was trying to end myself really, really slowly. I'm like, I'm trying to beat the Christian here. And they think I'm trying to slowly end my own life. So they stuck me in a camera cell where they have a camera pointing at me all day in case I am harming myself. But anyway, I went from about 235 pounds when I got locked up down to a little under 150.
Wow.
And so I was looking really bad. Matter of fact, I when they brought me down, because they kept testing my blood, because the doctor tells me, he said, we'll be able to tell from blood tests when your body starts feeding off its own internal organs. And he said, then we're sticking a tube in you and we're going to force feed you. And so, but I remember they took me down there one time for a blood sample, and the nurse looks at my file and she goes, wrong file. And the other nurse goes and she comes back and she goes, no, this is the only David Wood. And she goes, and she shows me the picture. She goes, does this look like you? She thought it was a different person.
Yeah, well, I'm sure, understandably so. Mm-hmm. So you go to all these lengths. You're practically killing yourself in the judgment of the personnel at this facility. All these lengths to beat Randy. but I gather you don't beat Randy. I don't know if you beat him in the fasting contest, but what I mean is your perspective has changed. Through this process, you come to God. You choose to follow Christ. What do you remember what that moment was, or what was the thing that Randy said? What was was there a singular argument that changed your mind?
He'd been talking about like, design and it's weird. He was talking about in like chemistry, like chemical components of everything and so on. So I was like, come on, you don't, how else could things have been? Weird things happen when universes explode. And but what actually happened is when I got back and I'm just in isolation with a camera pointed at me, I concluded that the real reason this guy keeps beating me in arguments is he's just studied this stuff and I hadn't studied this stuff. So then I started studying the stuff, and he'd given me a couple of books on some of these things. He'd given me Fox's Book of Martyrs because he was telling me that the disciples died in some horrible, bloody ways. And so I'm reading like Fox's Book of Martyrs and stuff like this, and reading about the deaths of the apostles and so on. But it was basically three things that all came together. So yeah, Randy's real impact was like making me mad enough to start studying this stuff so I could refute him. But it was kind of three things, and they all kind of came together. One was it was a kind of design argument. But it's kind of biological, but it's basically I was just I'm lying on my bunk and I'm looking at the bricks on the wall in my cell, and I just thought, if someone told me that these bricks went into this order by some natural process and not by someone doing it, I'd smack him in the mouth for saying something so stupid. But I believe that life formed on its own, and like any life is massively more sophisticated than these bricks stacked on top of each other. So why did I accept that? Why did I accept that? In other words, like I was always obsessed with like freeing myself from ideas that other people put in my head, and it just like hit me like, wait, they put that idea slipped by me. They just said it. They just said that life formed on its own, and I believed it, and they never offered me any proof of how this could happen, and I just believed it. So that started bothering me. It didn't convince me that God existed. It convinced me that maybe I was wrong and maybe I was hasty in concluding that things aren't designed. So there was that. Then there was that issue of how the apostles died. And Fox's Book of Martyrs turns out to not be completely accurate, because some of those cases for some of the apostles were like based on, like 3rd century sources and stuff. And you don't know exactly how reliable they are, but some of them are based on significantly earlier material. So we have a good idea that multiple followers of Jesus went to horrible, bloody deaths, proclaiming that he had risen from the dead and appeared to them. But I'm sitting there thinking of this, like these guys going to their horrible, bloody deaths. My theory of Christianity, which it just occurred to me as soon as people started telling me he rose from the dead. It's just I came up with a counter explanation. It was, okay, these guys followed Jesus and then he died and they wanted to keep the movement going. So they made up a story about him rising from the dead and appearing to them. And that made sense to me until I found out that they were going to their horrible, bloody deaths proclaiming this. And I started thinking like if they made it up, would they really be willing to die for it? And I started trying to think of anyone in history who died for something he knew he made up. Because people die. There are Christians willing to die for what they believe. Muslims are willing to die for what they believe and so on. But you have to believe it. It doesn't make any sense to make something up and then to endure torture and death for something that you made up. But I thought,
what do you gain by dying for a lie is the question. Nothing.
The saying is liars make poor martyrs. You generally don't want to die for something you're lying about. And even if you want to say, okay, maybe there's just like some crazy nut job who's willing to die for something he made up. How does Jesus get like all these guys who are willing to die for this stuff? And so that was bothering me. Like, okay, if they're not making it up, because that makes no sense that they made it up and they're willing to die for it, then they had to actually believe it. And if they believed it, what convinced all these guys? What convinced all these guys for years, even to the point where they're being executed? What convinced these guys to have that level of confidence that they had seen a man who'd risen from the dead and appeared to them? It seemed like the only explanation that really fit all of that well was that they actually saw a person who had risen from the dead and appeared to them. But that didn't I wasn't like, oh, I'm a Christian now and now I believe this. It's more along the lines of, okay, I had a dumb explanation. What's the real explanation? I couldn't think of a good explanation that fit that evidence. And so I was thinking about that. And then it was like there was a third thing that was a kind of moral argument. And by the way, I think I thought I was inventing all these arguments. Turns out other people had all these arguments, came up with all these arguments before me.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I noticed a lot of criticisms. People think it's like something that they have just thought of originally. Mm-hmm. And as though people haven't been talking about this stuff, debating this stuff for a couple thousand years now.
Yeah.
It's pretty much all been hashed out. And yeah, there's so much crazy about your story. Just the quest to obtain freedom and break all the rules brought you to a jail, taking away all of your freedom, and you come to investigate this stuff to discover real freedom on the other side. I just find it so fascinating, but I didn't want to interrupt the last factor you were talking about, which is the moral component, right? This was convincing to you?
Yeah, well, that kind of ties into what you're pointing out, sort of where all of this led. But wasn't the normal moral argument? The normal moral argument is like if there are like objective moral values, if there is like real right and wrong, there has to be some standard, and it can't be us because people have different ideas about right and wrong. It can't just be biology because the way you're wired to do something doesn't make that really right or wrong. I mean, you have a lion who goes into a new pride will kill all the baby lions to make room for its own offspring. It's wired to do that. It doesn't make it right just because it's wired some way. So there has to be some sort of independent standard. And once you start going through the details of what a standard of right and wrong would be like, that applies to all moral agents, it starts sounding a lot like God. So that's kind of a normal moral argument. Mine was more along the lines of, wait a minute, I believe that I am the greatest human being who ever lived, but I also believe that we're these insignificant little blobs of cells on this little speck of dust going around this tiny star in this huge universe where nothing we ever do is going to really influence anything at all. Those don't go together. How am I the greatest, most important, meaningless lump of cells? It's like you have to pick one. You have to pick one. Either I am some great being, in which case there's some standard of greatness and so on. So I have to figure out what that is, or it makes no sense because I'm just another meaningless lump of cells. And it doesn't matter if I'm different in some way. We're all just meaningless lumps of cells. But I started thinking, okay, if there did happen to be a standard of greatness, what are the odds that I'm at the top of that, right? Like, what basis do I have for thinking that I'm at the top of that? And it was kind of thinking about that, where eventually I was just like looking at myself, and I'm like, I'm sitting here, they're about to tube feed me. The psychiatrist is saying she's going to send me permanently to Miriam Mental Hospital, which is like the longer term version. I'm sitting here drooling. If I stand up, I fall over half the time. I ended up with this rash all over my body, but called like vitamin deficiency, and your immune system weakens, and then chicken pox reactivates and so on. You get this rash all over you. And I'm just sitting there thinking, how am I the greatest person who's ever lived? And it was just thinking about where all of my decisions and beliefs had gotten me. I went in a short amount of time from thinking that I was the greatest person in the world to thinking I was the worst, most pathetic person in the world. And that is actually a good place to be, because, once you hit absolute rock bottom and you realize, wow, I am really, really, really messed up. I'm not superior. I'm actually messed up. Once you're in that position, then, you think, okay, well, either this is the way I am and I'm just stuck with this and this is the rest of my life and that's all there is, or there's someone who can fix this sort of thing. And when you ask that question, like, who out of anyone in history could take really, really messed up people and just like give them a new start and so on and change them, you kind of get a list of one. And that's Jesus. And you can read about, Legion, guys demon possessed and so on, and cutting themselves with stones. And Jesus can deal with that sort of thing. And so it kind of got to the point where I was just like, what have I got to lose? What have I got to lose here? If I bow down and I pray, and things are just the same, oh, I'm not any worse. I'm not any worse. So it was kind of like, what have I got to lose? So, yeah, one day I just bowed down in my cell and I prayed and I said, God, if you can do anything with me, you're welcome to it. I don't know if I'll believe in you tomorrow, but I believe in you right now. And then I prayed a prayer. I was doing Bible studies just to learn the Bible so I could argue with Randy. But the end of the Bible studies would have like a prayer. And so I prayed that prayer and I sat up from that prayer and like the entire world looked different. Like everything had changed color when I sat up from that. And some people talk about like feeling a weight lifted off them or something like that. I don't trust feelings a whole lot, but mine was a little different. It felt like when I sat up, it felt like I had been physically fighting my entire life. I'm not talking like I mean like physically just brawling in every direction for my entire life. And then it just like, it stopped. It was over. And I was like, huh, well, this is kind of wild. But so I had that was in jail and I went to prison after that and had to spend several years in prison. But I was reading the Bible, was going to church services and so on, and finished my sentence and headed out, went to college. And
well, you're speaking my language with the humility and objective morality points. That is a large part of my own path, and so I appreciate your thoughts on it. Man, you made a half hour disappear quickly. But before I let you go, I got to know what happened to Randy. Are you still friends with Randy? Is Randy still around? What's the Randy story?
Yeah, well, that's kind of wild because yeah, after I got out, so I only had one felony. After I got out, we'd write back and forth and so on. Eventually I moved and he switched prisons and I lost contact with him. And it was, I don't know, 6-7 years later, something like that, when I found him on an inmate locator on a website and stuff. And so I wrote him, and Randy said that he sent me a letter back and he said that he'd lost his faith in prison. And he said,
really?
Yeah, he said, I said I was trying to do the right thing. And I said, I don't want to spend the rest of my life not being accountable. So I turned myself in for all these things. And then I'm just spending all these years in prison. He goes, and nothing ever came of it. So he said, I lost my faith. And I go,
what a strange twist. Wow. There's a lot of crazy directions in this story of yours.
Yeah. And I said, I said, really? You don't think anything ever came of this? Let me tell you, buddy. And so,
well, if you're able to bring Randy back, that's another incredible twist.
No, Randy's hardcore now. Randy's hardcore. So
okay, so he did return.
Oh yeah. So
okay.
I told him about myself. I was like, do you not know what happened, man? Do you not know what happened after all these years? And eventually, I told him about my friend Nabil and how after I got out of prison, I met this Muslim, and after several years of us having discussions going back and forth, that he became a Christian, and then he started going around preaching all over the world and so on. Eventually someone sent him a copy of Nabil's book, Seeking Allah, Finding Jesus, and so on. I'm like, you realize like the chain reaction from your this one act of extreme faithfulness where you're going to do the right thing. You go turn yourself in and look at like what happens. And this ends with like the gospel being proclaimed all over the world and so on. And so Randy's totally solid, and he's still locked up, and he's teaching the Bible studies there.
Well, God bless him. Appreciate Randy wherever you are right now. And that's my guest, David Wood. You can find him on his YouTube channel, Apologetics Roadshow. You can follow him on X. That's at X17David, linked in the description. David, is there anything else you'd like to promote?
No, this is like an awesome time for Christian apologetics. It's Christianity was so successul for so long in the West that people didn't challenge it nearly enough, and apologetics sort of fell out of favor. It wasn't important. So which was different from like the early centuries of Christianity, where you're not going to convert to it unless you think you have a good reason, because you're going to be persecuted. You're going to have to give up. You might have to give up your family and so on. So apologetics was built into it. You're not converting without a good reason. And then eventually, after many centuries, everyone you know is a Christian. And so you don't need to know really why you believe what you're raised to believe. But, now in our lifetimes and so on, being attacked from all directions. And so people are stepping up and going into the reasons for believing. But yeah, this is an awesome time for apologetics, and lots of good channels out there.
Well, thank you for your time, David. I appreciate it.
Stand back and stand by.
Thanks again to my guest, David Wood. Find the links to his YouTube channel and his X account in the description. There's also the full video of his testimony on his conversion to Christian faith. Very interesting one. Get the full story on how the whole Randy thing happened. It's also linked in the description for you. I am developing a new rule around here, Batman. I only have guests on who have attacked people with hammers. There was the Alaskan Avenger. Now there's David Wood. I need a new good hammer story from whoever might have one out there.
Stop the hammering!
You have any thoughts on David Wood at all before we get into some hoax hate?
I was completely unfamiliar with him. That was a fascinating story. That's really interesting. It's really, really interesting to me. And it's these kind of stories that go a long way towards sort of moving me down that road towards Christianity.
Go on.
In that this particular faith seems to be able to fix people who would otherwise seem to be completely unfixable.
Yeah. Well, redemption is the point. Yeah. And he's certainly such a story. And as far as the story being compelling, if you do think it's compelling the way he told it here, and I mean you as in you, Batman, and anybody in the audience, I would encourage you to check out that link that's in the description for his presentation of the story as he gave it 2 years ago on his channel, because it's not only is it a cool story, I mean, he got through most of it with what we went through there, so a lot of it will be what you just heard, but I admire the production of it because he tells this story while getting on the subway. And it's all in this metaphor of living in an underground world while someone tries to tell you that there's actually this great big bright world out there above you, but we all just dismiss them as crazy fools ranting about nonsense until your mind is opened and you exit the subway as he does, and he's out into the big bright beautiful world above him. It's an incredibly well produced video in addition to the story, and I didn't have time to get into how that was made. But I really appreciate how it was made. It's like this crazy. I played a short clip of it at the start of it, at the start of the segment there, where you saw him on the subway. But he's moving the whole time. He's moving throughout this whole subway scene, and it's all like one continuous take, as far as I can tell, which is really incredibly performed, produced. It's just from a production standpoint. That's not duct tape. That's high quality stuff. However, he did it. So
yeah, I'm gonna have to take a look at that.
Yeah,
like I said, I was completely unfamiliar with him before. I'd never heard his name before this, so that's going to be something I should look into.
Well, I'm glad you gave it a listen, and I'm glad you found some value in it. That's very cool, and he's a good guy. So I know that like Christian testimony stuff's not for everybody necessarily. Don't worry, I'm not going to try to browbeat anybody into discovering the faith or anything. But I think his story, as you're talking about Batman, it's not just about. Obviously, he's made his name on Christian apologetics and defending the Christian faith and arguing for the Christian faith. But his story is one that's beyond the faith itself, just in terms of like, wow, it's just not a common life story that he has in general. So I hope it's something of value to people who maybe otherwise wouldn't listen to Christian topic stuff. But anyway, I appreciated his time. Let's get into hoax hate. Let's get back into our usual department around here.
And now, the nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
Well, I've covered this one since it happened in 2023. There's now a prison sentence for one of the people involved, but back in 2023, a man named Yemi Mobolade was running for mayor of Colorado Springs. In fact, he is now the mayor of Colorado Springs. He's Nigerian, and he, at the time, he is the first black mayor of that city, Colorado Springs, but that was kind of part of the campaign. The first black potential mayor of the city. So, of course, during this campaign, somebody places one of his campaign signs at a prominent intersection in the city, one of the two major intersections in the city, as far as I understand. Places a campaign sign there. And then one night, the sign is vandalized with red spray paint spelling out the word.
The N-word. That's a very nasty word.
And there's a burning cross. And again, this is in the middle of the city at a very important intersection. So all could see it. And investigators, after looking into this, determined that the cross burning and the graffiti were done by Derek Bernard and Ashley Blackcloud. They're a husband and a wife, and there was a third person involved named Deanna West. But they identified these people based on text message communication and based on the fact that Ashley Blackcloud, the woman we're talking about here who's now facing a prison sentence, she actually still had the red spray paint can in her car. So as always, Batman, when you do the hoax hate, don't take a picture of yourself with the spray paint can behind you. Don't leave the spray paint can in your car. Dispose of the spray paint can immediately because it will be used as incriminating evidence against you. But Blackcloud and Bernard, the husband and wife behind this, they were convicted at trial last year. Bernard's sentencing is in March, but Ashley Blackcloud has now been sentenced to a year in prison for this hoax. Here's some local reporting on that.
A woman convicted in what federal prosecutors call
Come on now.
acquaintance. The U.S. Attorney's
Speaking
Office
of
says
the computer
Ashley
problems.
Blackcloud will spend 1 year and 1 day in federal prison. This case started in 2023 when a burning cross was seen in front of then mayoral candidate Yemi Mobolade's campaign sign. Blackcloud was found guilty by a jury in May of conspiracy and conveying false information about a threat after a week-long trial. Her co-defendant, Derek Bernard, who was also convicted in the case, is set to be sentenced in March.
But does it really make sense that the two people or three people in this city were just so enthusiastic about the campaign of Yemi Mobolade that they would conduct this hoax without his knowledge or without his participation? Who really cares about a mayoral race enough to do that sort of stunt totally independent of the candidate? Well, that's what we were supposed to believe, that Mayor Yemi Mobolade had nothing to do with this scam. It was not a Nigerian scam about a prince holding a fortune in your name overseas or something like this. He was never involved. That's what we're supposed to believe, even though there is evidence of his involvement. Now, he was never charged. Do I have a picture of the mayor here? I think there's one in here. That's the mayor, Mobolade. But he was never charged, even though we know he's friends with Derek Bernard. Derek Bernard is some sort of local radio personality or some sort of local media guy. And they were in communication in general because they were friends. Not only were they in communication, though, but FBI records presented at trial showed that the mayor, Mobolade, was in contact with Bernard, the guy who did this hoax, the day before, the day of, and the day after the hate crime. Yet he was never charged. They also had him on false testimony to the FBI because he told the FBI he had never been in communication or wasn't in communication with Bernard. He clearly was. There were phone records to prove it. And according to an investigation done by Luke Rosiak last year at the Daily Wire, there are FBI sources saying that the reason the mayor was never charged and instead of getting him on, in addition to charges for the hoax, lying to the FBI, which he did, they the Biden DOJ, the Biden FBI, opted to give Mobolade another chance to interview with them so he could correct the record and not be guilty of lying to them. And they never brought charges because, quote, they didn't want to indict the first black mayor of Colorado Springs. They didn't want the optics of it. So yet another prosecutorial opportunity for Pam Bondi and company. This guy's still the sitting mayor. He definitely participated in this hoax for which at least one person and probably multiple are going to jail. It was paging Pam Bondi. I know there's a lot of stuff on your desk, but go get the mayor of Colorado Springs, who 100% was in on this hoax because he's best friends with the guy who did it. And that's not a coincidence.
I can't believe this story has been going on since 2023.
It takes a while to put people in prison, long time.
This seems like such a cut and dry case, though. I mean, one would think that, speedy trial and all that. You got all the evidence.
I assume the fact that it took this long is probably on the defense and not necessarily on the prosecution. I don't know. I don't know why it took that long to go, but they clearly fought it. They didn't take a plea deal or anything, so I assume they took all their time trying to form whatever defense they could. It apparently did not work. But how could it work since she did it because the spray paint can is in her car and there are text messages between all the people saying, hey, you got that hoax coming tomorrow? Yeah, they didn't say that. I forget exactly what they said, but they said things that alluded to cooperation together. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a pretty funny one here. We'll get to this one next. That's a different one. But this one, this is, it's not hoax hate per se, but it is a hoax. And Mark Davis is a guy running for Congress in Florida. Supposedly he's running as an independent, but I looked over at his campaign website and it sure looks like a lot of Democrat things. Healthcare for all, no person is illegal type stuff. So functionally a Democrat, if an independent in name.
Well, he's probably running in a district where if you run as a Democrat, you're doomed immediately.
I assume it's probably that. Yeah. So he's running for Congress in Florida's 16th district. This week he posts a supposed internet secret that the website Nazis.us, if you type in Nazis.us, that will redirect you to the Department of Homeland Security because, of course, ICE is a bunch of Nazis.
So here, nazis.us, it takes you to our Homeland Security website.
Let me pull this. Hold on. I'm going to start this over because he called it an internet secret. I want to make sure that's included. Let me try one more time on the play.
Internet secrets you didn't know existed, part 1. Did you know that if you go here, nazis.us, it takes you to our Homeland Security website where you can become a Homeland Defender. Internet secrets you
Wow, what an internet secret. Now, I don't know if you saw his browser history there when he typed that in, Batman, but do you see what's on the very bottom? Can you read it? I assume you understand what that means. So domain portfolio for Nazis.us for people that aren't super tech or internet literate. That means, so the domain would be the address, Nazis.us. The domain portfolio, as hosted by GoDaddy, it looks like he bought that domain. He bought that website. He set up the forwarding. Anybody could do that in the same way somebody bought matis.gay and made it forward to my website, which I appreciate. But for him to act like this is a little known internet secret, hey, did you guys know? Like, he types it in, and the domain portfolio that he set up autofills. I haven't seen his defense of this. Maybe he's going to say, oh, of course it was a joke. I was joking that it was a secret or something. Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but if it is what it appears to be, this was quite the cell phone. So,
well, I think it was a cell phone anyway, even if it was a joke. Because I mean, for a joke to land, it has to be funny.
Oh yeah, he called them Nazis. What a clever bit! What an original.
Never heard that one before.
I think that we need to match him in this stunt. We need to get ur.gay and have it redirect to markdavisforcongress.com. I'm sure someone has to have ur.gay though. I remember the reason I have matis.gay I forget, I should credit the guy who bought that for me. I don't have the name handy, but you're out there, you're listening, you know who you are. That happened in, I think it was Pride Month of June 2022 when GoDaddy made .gay domains available, and I'm sure someone. Oh, do I dare type in ur.gay? I'm going to do that off screen right now. Let me see where that goes. I'm not going to encourage anyone to go to ur.gay until someone owns it. This domain has been recently registered with Namecheap, but it doesn't go to anything. I can open this on the screen. ur.gay goes to absolutely nothing. This domain has been recently registered with Namecheap, ur.gay. So let's get ur.gay for MikeDavisForCongress.com. That would be very fitting. Now, this story, Batman, this is, speaking of non-original, well, this is very original. This is not a hoax, but this is a form of hate crime if you consider it one that is original. I've never seen anything like this before. This is Bell, California. It's a South LA suburb. There is an LGBTQ youth center in Bell, and I wonder what happens at an LGBTQ youth center and what sort of adults run such a place.
Definitely worth checking into.
I assume that's why the guy who is taking action against this place is motivated to do what he's doing. But this place is
by Nambla.
Yeah, exactly. This place is called MCL Center. It's actually Hispanic, which I also found odd. MCL is like some sort of Spanish thing. I don't know what that translates to or what, but it's a bunch of Hispanic people running this, which normally is not what I would. I wouldn't expect like a Hispanic gay youth center, but that's what we're dealing with here. For months, a guy who, as far as I'm aware, in this story is not identified, but a guy has been walking his dog by this place. The camera footage looks like it's late at night or early in the morning. It's in the dark. He's chucking his daily bag of dog poop onto the awning above the door. And organization leaders say this is a hate crime because he's targeting them because they're gay. Police say there's nothing they can actually do about it because it's technically only littering.
It started back in June, so the center has been dealing with this for nearly 7 months. They tell me the staff keeps finding these bags of dog poop on this awning. Security video shows a man walking his dog in front of the MCL Center in Bell when suddenly he tosses something. It happened so quickly, but when we slow it down, you can see the bag go flying onto the awning. Today, workers at the center run by the Latino Equality Alliance cleaned bag after bag of dog poop.
We are reclaiming our space not just by cleaning our facility, but by inviting the individual responsible to step forward, offer an apology, and engage in a dialogue for healing.
The center, which offers services to LGBTQ youth in the area, says staff started finding the bags on their property back in June.
We do believe it's an attack on us because we're LGBTQ.
It is hateful, it is disgusting, and it must stop.
But it might not stop. The police chief said detectives have worked with city leaders and the DA's office, but all agree
it's a littering offense, which means if a police officer was present and they witnessed the littering, then certainly they could write the citation. But absent that, there's nothing that really we can do.
On Monday, Supervisor Hahn's office called on the police to investigate the situation as a hate crime.
And do everything in their power to protect MCL and the dignity of the community who depend on this center.
He touched young people.
They touch a lot of youth at this LGBT youth center. But you saw how many piles of crap that actually is. If people are listening to this on audio or whatever, this is not like he did it once. They have crews removing the dozens of bags of dog crap that this guy chucks up there on a daily basis. And I am actually shocked by this legal stance by the police department and the district attorney there in LA County. And of course, I have questions about what's going on at this LGBT youth center, as anybody might. But I am surprised to hear that doing this type of action is treated as mere littering and not vandalism. That is to say, what if I just chucked my garbage onto your property every single day? Would that not be treated as an act of vandalism instead of littering? Like I just left a candy bar wrapper or a can of soda on the street or something like that? The legal standard they're saying makes no sense to me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. Maybe if he threw the crap up there not in a bag, it would be vandalism, but because it was contained, it was just littering. I don't know.
I'm baffled by this because on the one hand, I do think it's hilarious, but I also know that if some guy was doing this to me for whatever reason that he hates me, the idea that the idea that he can't be stopped by the law seems preposterous to me. But I'm also confused by them because even if the police won't help you, guess what? If someone's doing this to me on my property every day, I'm stopping them myself. If I know they're doing this every night, I'm standing out there and I'm going to stop them myself when they arrive. They've got the cameras up. They know what time he comes by. Why don't they just stop him? Why don't they physically stop him themselves until he doesn't do this anymore?
Bunch of slack-jawed faggots around here. That's why.
Oh, where's that? That's a deep cut. That's in here. Here it is.
Bunch of slack-jawed faggots around here.
I got all my gay ones
deep
on.
Cut?
That's a rarely deployed one, but I have a whole folder of gay ones, so I've got that one ready to go.
By the way, I did wind up. Yeah. I did wind up looking up MCL. It does not appear to mean anything in Spanish.
Yeah, I couldn't find a translation either, but I know they're all Hispanic, and it's something in Hispanic culture. Anyway, what else have I got in here? Oh, there's a lot of good ones. Oh, speaking of gays in Spanish, this is applicable. You ever, speaking of Google Translator, I think I've mentioned this before. If you type homosexual into Google Translator, English to Spanish, it's still homosexual, but they say it funny.
Homosexual.
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 That's what they are at MCL. They are.
Homosexual.
Anyway, okay. That's all I had to say about it. The baffling, they arrest people for all sorts of nonsense in California. I mean, they don't arrest people. They don't arrest people for nonsense, and they also arrest people for nonsense, if you get what I'm saying. Real crimes, they don't police. Nonsense, certainly crimes against the rainbow community are definitely policed, but not this one. And whoever this guy is, he is an originator in the craft. I will give him that. I've never seen this tactic of just chucking bags of dog poop at your enemies and getting away with it. He's been doing it since June, they said. Like since Pride Month, he's been doing it. And still, he's on the run. He's on the loose. But
I wonder if maybe they didn't notice because they couldn't smell it because they're so used to the smell of shit.
I would entertain the possibility, but in the video news story, I cut it for time, but there is a neighbor business, a barber guy, who says it's really unfortunate because, yeah, it smells really bad. So I don't like it because I imagine all that dog crap baking in the hot Southern California sun does get
smell horrific. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Awfully smelly. But, okay, we'll close.
Somebody in the chat just said "Cella" is Spanish for rusty trombone.
Okay.
Homosexual.
Something like that. It is a mystery. Okay, let me give a refresh over on YouTube and Tippy. I see we got who we got. A Rocker on Rumble says, "You are blessed by the Lord Jesus Christ. God enter and bless you." Well, God bless you. That's AC Rocker, if I said it incorrectly. Appreciate that. God bless you, and thank you for listening to the segment. And I know, Christian, I'm interested in the apologetics content, and it's something I kind of dabble in as far as my own listening. I also know that's not really where I've made my name and cut out my area, so it's kind of a balancing act for me content-wise. Like, I don't want to completely change what I do and act like an audience isn't here for a particular reason or a particular thing, so I also don't want to be afraid to talk about something that is increasingly important in my life, so I'm trying to strike that balance, and I appreciate patience with content that's maybe a little outside the norm of what I do, but there's so much intersection of religion and politics anyway, necessarily so, that you kind of, you don't really enter one without the other. But I think that's also one interesting thing about conservative and libertarian politics. There's quite a lot of disagreement on religion and faith and the role of religion and faith in everyday life and in politics itself. And I like that. Like, my intent, of course, is never to try to force a view on somebody. I think that people need to find what I believe to be true here for themselves. But I like that there is a lot of non-Christian viewpoint in this community from which I came, of course. I don't think I was ever like anti or hostile, but it took time to convince me, and I hope that people who are considering will maybe follow the same path. Anyway, God bless you, AC Rocker. Appreciate it. Let's see. Where did I... okay. Sorry, I got to back up a little bit here and find where I left off. It was Tortuga, right? Esoterica Unbound. He's one of us is the new complete depth of political, legal, and ethical thought on the left, right? He is our team member, or he is not. They aren't just retards. They are violent retards.
The R word. This is shameful.
Emphasis on re, of course. Quiet part out loud stuff is interesting in that way, Batman. When they actually say, no, it's the treatment, the street beating was fine until we realized he's one of us, until he's on the team. Oh, well then it's bad. The only reason it's bad is because he's on the team now. But if he wasn't on the team, beat his ass on the street all you like. I have no problem with that.
People with morals like that should absolutely not be able to vote. Like that is exactly the reason for the sort of societal corruption and that we're seeing right now. It's because people like that have the ability to affect change in politics. You're never going to have a good, just society if people like that have the ability to have a voice, basically.
But they're not on our team. They don't deserve a voice. No, I get what you're saying. And voting has gone too far.
It's not about whether or not they're on the team or not.
Yeah.
It's about, of course, the fact that you cannot have a society where people with no moral fiber can affect change, because then they will be a dysgenic element that will inevitably sort of corrupt any kind of good or...
Yeah. If you remove a moral core from the voting body, of what value is the vote? That is to say, what moral framework does the vote reflect? And if none, or if tribal team politics is the moral code, you're going to have a disaster. That is to say, like, democratic decision-making is presumed moral for its own sake. That's not really true.
Well, John Adams said the American system of political governance is God, what was the
moral and religious people, man?
Yes. Yeah, that's the one to which I refer. And it is wholly inadequate for the government of any other, is how we finish that.
To have degenerate, morally confused people voting is to empower them to do morally degenerate things to other people. It's a big problem. We're facing it right now. We'll have to find some resolution here.
And the result is MCL.
In the year 2025, says, well, first of all, thank you for your support.
I am not going to be niggardly.
You are definitely coming into your own. I miss the late and great Rush Limbaugh. Well, I don't deserve to be mentioned within an entire novel's worth of text of that guy, but I appreciate your support for the show, and thank you, because now I got a tech problem to resolve too, and we'll try to get that resolved. But thanks. I know that's the other thing too. It's not just tech. It's like the last year plus has just been a time of disruption in my life professionally, and trying to figure out what I want to do and how to maintain it. And it's not easy just to restart something on the fly and try to, not everything is going to be exactly what you want to do or what an audience wants. And it was a crazy year, man. And I really feel like once I get this computer fixed, I feel like I'm starting to make the stuff that I want to make. Not that I wasn't before, but there's certain things you want to achieve and things you want to do. And I think the hardest part is getting interesting people to come on the show, which I'm still working on, and we'll try to figure that out. And then the other hardest part that I didn't expect was having the tech run properly. And I took efforts against that, or efforts to make the tech run properly, efforts against tech failure. And what we get is tonight's show. Anyway, Joshy boy, wine is the Lord's beverage. IPAs are the devil's piss. Well, you're at least half right.
We're the United
Wait,
States.
That's the wrong one. I meant this one.
Bingo.
Different Biden button. We can still do this one.
We're the United States of America.
Okay. Are you a wine guy? You don't strike me as a wine guy if I was going to guess.
I enjoy it from time to time, but mostly, in general, my beverage of choice is bourbon.
Yeah, you seem like that kind of guy. I don't like bourbon, but I'm not. I understand why it's appreciated. I get why you guys like it. It's just not for me. But it's not the same. I believe that you're authentic in your appreciation, unlike IPA guys who are just lying. They're like people who claim to enjoy Citizen Kane. They're not serious.
They're not horrible. They're just not my favorite kind of beer, I guess. I guess I more prefer ales. I'm not super.
Well, it isn't. It's an India Pale Ale.
Right, but I'm talking I like Newcastle. There was one in New York ale. There was one in New York.
An ale of color
called
right.
AOC. Oh shit.
That's another. You're right. That is another AOC. Anyway.
It is. There was one in out of Vermont that I could find in New York called Switchback that I really, really liked. But I haven't really drank beer for a few years now.
Well, enjoy your wine, Joshy. Producer Tim, Don Lemon and a crowd just stormed a church on the premise that one of the lead pastors is an ICE agent. Not seen any confirmation. I saw something like this before going live, and I didn't have time to look into it. After all the uses of the FACE Act by Dems, there is now talk that Lemon and these protesters have violated FACE. Well, the thing with FACE, though, it's not about... Is it about... I thought FACE was medical facilities, or does it have a religious component? Nah, I'm trying to remember. Let's look it up. FACE Act, freedom of access to clinic entrances. Okay, so I don't know that FACE would apply because this isn't a clinical setting. However, what's the charge they brought against Trump? And they brought against Douglas Mackey for that matter. Conspiracy to violate rights. Remember they did that? Well, what are you doing by obstructing a church in this way? You're conspiring to violate other people's constitutional right to free exercise. That's what you're doing.
Well, I think the religious component of the FACE Act wasn't that after that whole Mark Houck thing?
Well, there's a lot of religious involvement because there's religious protesters against abortion clinics. So,
yeah.
But I don't know that a FACE Act prosecution would apply to obstructing a church. I don't think that makes sense under the statute, unless I'm misunderstanding the statute. But there are certainly...
No, I think I agree with you. There would need to be... Well, there actually are already laws against disrupting church services and stuff like that. And I believe, if I recall correctly, that is a federal offense. So we don't need further laws. We just need law enforcement.
We just need to get another Jack Smith to bring the charge against Don Lemon. Injured Guardian, once again, did my router die or was it Matt's PC? Well, you have my assurance, and this is a major mistake to do this because, of course, I can't guarantee against duct tape, but I'm not going to fire up that computer again unless and until it is ideally replaced by the manufacturer. Even if they fix it, I'm kind of worried about it if they don't send me a different computer. But you have my assurance that that particular error, that particular duct tape problem is not going to happen again because I'm not going to create the circumstance to have it happen again. It's just infuriating. But
God, now I have to go about sabotaging a whole new unit, and it's going to... Kidding.
Yeah, I don't know what the Batman effect was, man. It's like this problem started, it was born through Batman, and it continues through Batman. Anyway, VV, oh crap, y'all got David Wood? Also, I would like some advice dealing with aging parents. My older brother's highly emotional and sensitive about it, while I'm mostly unbothered. Not that I don't care, rather I'm accepting the inevitable. I'm glad you like David Wood. That's great to know. As far as aging parents, I don't know that I have great advice on that because I haven't realized the totality of it yet. My parents are about 70 years old. Of course, they're downstairs listening to this show right now. So hi, Mom and Dad. But they will, God willing, grow old, and I and my wife will have to care for them as they grow old. And frankly, it's a very scary prospect because they've done so much for my family and for our boys, and the idea that one day they'll say goodbye to those boys and those boys will say goodbye to them is heartbreaking. But of course, it is the nature of the world. When I confront that, you say you're not bothered. I'm not going to over dramatize it, I suppose. That sounds like a silly thing to say. What I'm going to emphasize with my own processing of it and for my boys is that this is a natural part of life, that this is part of what gives life purpose, that we are here for a limited amount of time, and we spend it wisely, and we build a legacy through family. And so when grandma and grandpa are gone, it's on you boys to carry on who they were in your lives and all of those things. I want to process it through wisdom and appreciating the purpose rather than through some sort of sorrow of what is lost. Because of course, if you live to be a good old age, like it sounds like your parents probably have, yeah, it's sad that there's loss, but you really need to process that in appreciation, because anybody who makes it long enough to see their kids and their grandkids and to die in old age that way, that's a life well lived. And I don't want to shed too many tears about such a thing, because we should all be so lucky. That's a great thing to achieve if we get there. So that's the angle I'm going to look at it from, but it's easy for me to say because I haven't lived it. Knock on wood, God willing. Like, my parents are still healthy and they're still with it, so I haven't had to cross that bridge yet. But you have any thoughts on that one, Batman?
Well, I wouldn't expect that the MCU would be something I would quote in this context, but a thing isn't beautiful because it lasts.
Yeah. Yeah. Wait, what's that? I actually don't know what that is. What's MCU? What is that from?
The Marvel Cinematic Universe. It was a quote from the end of Age of Ultron.
Yeah. And I know my parents will be the same way. They'll, when that time comes, they'll be like, that was a good run. I'll see you later. Yeah. They're like, I don't have to listen to those kids screaming anymore. I don't have to wipe anymore. I don't have to do any dirty diapers or whatever. No, we appreciate how much they're helping us with our kids, and it's such a cool phase of life, to see your parents as grandparents with your kids, and to see them in a different role from being your parent and all that. So, just grateful for this time in life, and try to enjoy it while it's here.
It's definitely been interesting for me to watch my parents interact with my daughter.
Yeah.
Because I am seeing a facet, particularly of my father, that I have never seen in my entire life.
Is he soft? He's a big softy about it?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And, for my entire childhood and for my entire adult life, in fact, I've only ever really seen him as this really stoic, intelligent, kind of deep thinker type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I think I only ever saw him shed a tear at his own mother's funeral.
Mm-hmm.
He's just that kind of guy. He's quiet. He speaks deliberately, and you can kind of tell he's the kind of person who means every word that he says. So watching him just turn into a total goofball when I hand him my child has been a joy I cannot express.
Yeah. It's cool to see. I'm glad that your parents are a part of your life and your daughter's life in that way too. It's a great thing to have, and I wish more people had it.
Yeah.
Injured Guardian, Matt, what do you gain by dying for a lie? My brain immediately. Downton Abbey has entered the chat. P.S. Find a good indoor pistol range. We had one like right near my house, and then I don't know if the business wasn't sustainable, but for whatever reason they sold it to the sheriff's department, and they now use it for sheriff's department training, and that sucks because it's no longer available to the public. I don't like indoor shooting very much. It's loud. You got a bunch of people in your immediate proximity. I much prefer to shoot outdoors, but it's nice to have the option, and it's nice to have the convenience. And of course they had a bunch of rentals there, so you could like rent pretty much any gun and find out if you liked it or not before buying it. So it really sucks to have that gone now, but it was cool while it lasted. What was the lie in Downton Abbey? I mean, this is not a movie, it's a show, right? But I haven't seen it.
No, I've actually seen the whole show because my wife loves it, but I don't know exactly what's being referred to here.
There must be some lie that somebody died for that was beneficial. Because my question with David Wood was, what do you gain by dying for a lie? His point being that how likely is it that all of these guys died for the claim that Christ had resurrected if they knew it was false? Like, why would they go to their deaths if they knew it was false?
Well, one of the main characters dies for in childbirth, but while supporting this sort of like goofy commie revolution. Although actually her husband winds up becoming a more reasonable person after she's dead. So, I mean, who knows?
I might have been refuted by Downton Abbey, though. They might have totally destroyed what we were talking about. Anyway, Injured Guardian also says, you won't convert without a good reason. Luke and Acts were both originally written and mailed in order to convince one man that Christianity is legit. Yeah, David was talking about in this context, or he was talking about the historical context at the end there, that generally when Christianity was more viewed with more hostility or even persecuted historically, the decision to convert was more well thought out because there was greater risk in doing it, was the point that he was making. So yeah, as far as Luke and Acts, I should be able to confirm or deny your claim on Acts since Robert did a whole Bible study on Acts. But so I'll have to leave that one sitting. And we haven't read Luke's gospel yet in the Bible study. So and I really have not encountered much in Luke. So hopefully I'll get there. And I got to read, we got to do Matthew too. I got to read the gospel of my namesake. Wait, am I saying that right? Because Does namesake imply that he's named after me? That's not what I mean, of course. I'm named after him. But
it would be your namesake.
Okay. Just making sure I didn't say that incorrectly. Anyway, thank you, Injured Guardian. Esoterica Unbound, as compared with other religions, the fundamental genius of Christianity is the concept that it's never too late to be redeemed. That provides many opportunities for miraculous conversion stories. Yeah, and it's it is a great paradox of Christian faith in that way. It's like David talks about it. In one sense, it's a big exercise in humility. It's realizing that you are not that important, that you are in fact created pursuant to a purpose, that you have a moral obligation to pursue and achieve, and all these things. So it really makes you feel small in that sense, which is good, because I think humility is needed in this culture, in this society. We have a lot of people that think they're so important and they're the center of their own universe and they really make the rules or whatever. But at the same time, it is not minimizing you in the sense that you don't matter or you're insignificant. Like, everybody is redeemable and everybody has the opportunity to enter that kingdom if they choose the path. And those are two, they seem like they're in conflict, but they're kind of two simultaneously beautiful things. Like, you're not that important, but you also have the path to the utmost importance, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think I understand.
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept in that way. But Esoterica Unbound, as compared to, oh, that's the one we just read. Thank you. Lightning Blue Meanie. Has anybody ever said in their lifetime, hey, look, black people? What? Okay. He says, has anybody ever said in their lifetime, hey, look, black people, my day just got better?
That's not even cool. Like, why they do that?
I'm just reading the chats. Love the show, Matt. Glad to see you didn't stub your toe. Made the stream. I don't know. Hey, if you're tuning into an NBA game, I think you would say exactly that if you're a big fan. I don't know, man. What? I don't make the chats. I just read them, dude. Disavow. I have nothing to do with this, Raja Mohan. Ben Goins. The line of people who regret supporting Jesus is pretty short. There are people who come and go. I don't know if regret is the right word, but people who leave the faith, of course. But I don't know a lot. I don't know a lot of people who say, like, yeah, I was big in the church and I was a big in faith, big follower of Jesus, and it actually was terrible, and I'm glad I left it, and the best thing I ever did was escape the faith. That does exist. I guess I've heard of people who are in kind of like cult-like things or something, who escape what might be something closer to captivity rather than a voluntary participation, but that would be the closest thing I could think of. Injured Guardian, to answer Gamer and Retro's question, yes, in two contexts. On a Louisiana shrimp boat crew. Well, what's the question? Oh, this is a response. It's just the usernames were different. This is a response to the other question about, has anybody ever said in their lifetime, hey, look? Yes, in two contexts. On a Louisiana shrimp boat crew and in the kitchens of the restaurants they sell and catch to. Yeah, that's true. Injured Guardian also says, we need more IPAs, income producing assets. We need that too.
Bingo.
Zephia, my dad isn't doing well in the hospital. If you could you keep my dad Tom in your prayers? Well, thank you, Zephia, and we do pray for your dad Tom, and God bless him, and we hope he recovers in the hospital. And thanks for tuning in tonight and supporting the show, and all the best to your family. And we pray for him. Thank you.
Yeah.
SMB, late Christmas gift and computer fund. Good day to you, sir. Well,
I am not going to be niggardly.
Thanks for supporting the show, SMB. And yeah, I mean, there are always costs in the production to cover, so appreciate your support for that. And hopefully it's not, I don't have to go and just buy another PC like straight up and lose the cost in this one. If this one is just an expensive paperweight that sits around as some kind of backup, I don't know how I'm going to resolve this, but I appreciate you helping me out with that problem. So I don't know. Always something, I just want to chill out on a Monday and get my usual chores done and get ready for the rest of the week. Nope. Now it's and the thing, I probably complained to you about this before, Batman, but trying to clone one PC into another one
is a pain in the ass. Yeah.
Why can't I just Control-C, Control-V this computer to that computer? It's going to take me hours just to like download. You got to download all the software, log into all the accounts. Some of it is transferable, the files and stuff. But as far as just like clone this computer into that computer, Mac does that easily. PC, I feel like I'm the only person who's ever requested a mechanism to do this from Microsoft. They don't have it. I don't understand why they don't have it. But
this is why I actually wound up using both platforms. I have a PC and I have a Mac.
Yeah, so, I do too. I edit on Mac, but I stream on PC.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, what happened to now my chats just disappeared. What did I do here? I think I got all of them anyway.
There's one more from Injured Guardian.
How did they all? Oh wait, here we go. Yeah, Injured Guardian Downton. Vera Bates ended herself as a legal ploy. Oh, yeah, so she died. She died for a lie, maybe for the benefit of her family or something like that.
No, to try and fuck over her family.
Oh, okay. Well, for something she hoped to gain after her death.
Yeah, I didn't remember that particular subplot because it didn't last very long, but that does make a lot of sense.
Well, it's not common, but I suppose it maybe has been achieved before. Maybe in fictional settings like this.
Yeah.
Anyway, we will end it there. Hey, appreciate everybody for tuning in tonight and your patience with what was yet another broken duct tape production. I am going to do my best to fix that once and for all, but appreciate your participation tonight. Thanks to our live chatters, super chatters, making the live show as successful as it can be and keeping the duct tape rolling. Appreciate you. If you're listening later on demand, thank you kindly as well for supporting the show. Thanks to David Wood for joining. Find his links in the description. Thanks to Batman for sitting in tonight. Appreciate you. Thank you. Thanks to producer Tim for his assistance as always. Find everything show related at mattchristiansenmedia.com or mattis.k if you prefer brevity. One thing I forgot to mention, since there was so much interruption tonight, definitely a possibility I missed a super chat. If I missed your chat and you'd like a refund, send me an email. We'll get that arranged and I will get that corrected for you. But other than that, I am back on Wednesday and Sunday nights with some kind of computer. We'll see which one I have on Wednesday. Have a great night and a great week. Until then.
Good night, y'all.
But